I'm joined by Jordan Jarrett-Bryan from Channel 4. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good to be here. Do you want to give us a little introduction of yourself and your career?
Yes, I'm a sports journalist and broadcaster. I have started in print journalism, did that for like 15, maybe 17 years, and then transitioned into broadcast journalism, where I've done stuff for 1Extra. I work at Channel 4 as their sports correspondent, and I also work at Talk Sport, and I now have a production company and a platform called Blackademic, which is podcast and YouTube platform as well.
Nice. What age did you start? When were you first becoming a journalist? When did you first get on the journalism scene?
I started writing at 13. So 13 years old was when I started writing for a local magazine called Live, which was a magazine in Brixton. It's a youth magazine produced by young people for young people about youth culture, and it was just it was all. I started off just doing basic stuff like album reviews. I think my first ever clipping was a 100-word review on 50 Cent's first album, and I think my second one was like a review of a PlayStation 1 game or something. It's like a game review section, and then about 6 months to a year later, they offered me the role as editor of the magazine. And writing and journalism was always what I wanted to do. Yeah. So that was a natural course for me at school when I was young. I was only really good at two things: writing and sports, which is great because I've ended up being a sports writer. So I've combined two things that I'm good at. So that's where I started. Did that for 9-10 years. I moved into another magazine and did a little bit of radio, and now for the last 13 years. I've been working in TV, but writing was always what I wanted to do. Yeah.
So obviously, you say 13. Obviously, during school, did you get taken out of school to go and pursue your career, or were you just did you just finish school and then that's already you knew what you wanted to go into?
So I was quite lucky in the sense that I knew from early, as I mentioned, that I wanted to be a writer. Yeah. So most people at 13, 14 don't know what they want to do, and that's normal. It's not normal to know. At 10, I knew I wanted to be a writer. That's abnormal. I was a very weird child in that I knew writing was for me. So my journey was kind of mapped out for me. So I went to school, finished school, didn't do very well at school. So I'm very intelligent, I'm very gifted, but I was very lazy. I was too busy bunking and chatting up girls and trying to hang out with the man there. And I was just like,
teenage life.
Yeah, I was just being an idiot. So by the time I finished school, I had like 3 GCSEs that were A to C's, and it wasn't enough to do A levels. So my first year at college was repeating my GCSEs to get the 5 I needed to do A levels. I was still writing for Live at this point, and I was 2 or 3 years in, and I dropped out of college, and they said to me at Live, we will only let you continue editing our magazine if you finish your A levels. Yeah. And that was the deal. So I was like, oh man.
Get your head down then.
Get your head down, and you got to, there's a job here for you, but you got to study as well. So I did that, and then I didn't actually. It's weird because I actually didn't complete my A levels. I got an AS. I don't know if it's still called an AS.
AS in year 12, one before.
Yeah.
The final year. Yeah.
I didn't even finish it, but I'd gone through the process, and by the time I got to 16, 17, 18, 19. I had a portfolio of work and magazines I'd done from 13. I almost didn't really need A levels, and I didn't go to university. So I think I'm probably the only person in my newsroom at Channel 4 News who didn't go to university, which is very, very rare. I got to where I got to now because of talent, persistence, hard work, and networking, and a little bit of luck. You get some breaks along the way, but a lot of hard work and networking. And I just had a portfolio at the age of 19, 20 that was bigger than some people that were 40, 45 years old that have been working in the industry for 20 years. I had front covers and interviews with people all over the place. So I didn't do the traditional route to becoming a professional journalist. But that's okay. And many people that do go to university, I don't discourage that at all. But for me, I knew that the classroom environment wasn't how I best learn. So I knew that the best way for me to learn was to just
supposed to be practical as well. Proactive.
Vocational experience as opposed to kind of classroom. So that was my journey. Yeah.
Would you say that you've seen the transformation almost from written to with the advances of technology? Would you say have you had to adapt yourself in the way that that journalism's gone?
100%.
More social media?
100%. I think digital media and the explosion of the internet has enabled everyone to be a journalist of sorts. And I say that because there's a little bit of snobbery when I say that, and I accept that. But when I was coming through, there was no YouTube. There was no blogs, there was no vlogs, there was no. You had to write and be.
A lot more written, wasn't it?
It was a lot more written, but you had to be commissioned.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can be your own commissioner, you can be your own publisher. You don't have to wait for the BBC or Talk Sport to put your work out there. If you want to write a match report on Arsenal or West Ham or whoever it is you support, you can write that and have it out on Twitter and have a following and an audience up by yourself. You don't need to be commissioned. So that's been the biggest change, I think. In probably life, and the internet's been the biggest change, period.
Oh yeah, massively, yeah.
But I think in our industry, for sure, it's enabled people to now be empowered to just say, okay, well, I've got an audience, I've got a talent, I don't need to have the middleman, i.e. a publisher or a broadcaster, to be able to get my work out there. So that journey and transformation has been very, very interesting to see and watch and develop. And I had to develop as well, because I do podcasts now, I do a YouTube channel, I do radio, I do TV, so I've had to diversify my portfolio of skill sets, and luckily I think I'm good at all of those ones. Some people, they stick to the one thing they're good at, and that's fine as well, but the internet allows you now to have more armory, more weaponry in your armory.
Yeah, do you think that's helped you in terms of the job that you've got? So you might have had the written one that you've done when you were 13, and then you might have got a job and then they've said, can you go and do this, and it sort of put you out your comfort zone. Did you have to adapt to that a bit
100%.
more?
100%. It's definitely helped me because it's enabled me to be employable.
Yeah.
You know, you guys here, you're learning, you're studying here, but ultimately you want jobs. You're doing this to kind of get to the job. You need to be paid for what it is that you do. So, and I always told people that are studying, the more weaponry you have in your armory, the more you're going to be attractive to an employer. You want to leave here with as much experience, as much qualifications, so that you know, I can do this and this, whereas the guy next to you is like, I can do this and this, and that and that, and that and that, and this and that. So
just being better than having more than the other person that's probably competing for the same job that you want.
It's a fight. So, you know, I'd rather be able to know how to box, kick, you know, and other forms of combat sports rather than just being able to box. Because you compete, it's a jungle out there. So I was saying to you guys upstairs earlier on, language. I don't know why more young people don't study another language, because language, in probably most industries, but in our industry in particular, it gives you a massive advantage. You can speak a second language. If you have a French or German or Italian or whatever it may be on your CV, and you can do that, you make yourself more employable. So give yourself as much chance as possible to be employable as possible by being able to say, I can do podcasting, I can do radio, I can do TV, I can do print, I can also produce, I can film, I can edit.
You've got all those options.
I'll do it all.
No. You mentioned earlier about deadlines. Have you ever had any personal experiences where you've been close to deadlines and you've had a call and you've been in bed on a Sunday morning, you've had to get something up within an hour? Or
I had one incident where I was sent somewhere and we were travelling to somewhere to do a live for a story, and we got caught in crazy traffic, and it was looking. That's it. It was Wembley. I was going to Wembley. It was in town actually to do a live. It was on something England related. Which is ironic because I'm doing the same thing tomorrow for the announcement of the squad. But we were in traffic, and we're on air at Channel 3. We're on air at 7 p.m. And I think my hit was like 7:40. So we had to be there. The camera's got set up, the live view, the signal has got a patch in to the office back so they can see us. The signal's there. Get the mic on, get mic'd up, get situated, get framed up, the big arches over my shoulder, and that can take five minutes minimum.
About preparation and
exactly. So my hit is 7:40, but actually you need to be there. Worst case 7:30. And I think it was about 7, and we were still like a mile or two away. It was caught in traffic. We made it in the end, but it was the closest I've come to not making my slot. And in our industry, deadlines are essential. You just can't miss deadlines. No. You can't miss them.
Needs to be more prepared as well, just to make sure you don't.
And in that instance, it wasn't actually our fault. We left in good time, got caught in crazy traffic.
If it's out of your hands, then there's not too much.
It was out of our hands, but at the end of the day, no one wants to hear that.
You're late at the end of the day.
No one wants to hear the excuses or the reasons, even if they're valid excuses and reasons. No one cares. You missed your deadline, and that affects the production. So that's the closest I reckon I've come to missing my hit.
Yeah, quite an interesting question. When you're doing sort of like these talks on shows, would you say you have a lot more journalists alongside you compared to ex-players or ex-professionals in the game, or?
Good question.
Would you say there's a balance?
No, it's definitely more ex-athletes now than traditional journalists. And I think there are pros and cons to that. I think the good ex-athletes are the ones that add something and can give an insight. A, understand broadcast, but secondly, can give an insight into a game or a situation or a story. Yeah. And they're not lazy. I think there's a lot of lazy ex-athletes that just kind of come on shows and just talk in cliches and just say nothing. By the end of it, I'm like, what did you didn't give me anything.
No, I didn't. You didn't learn anything from it. No.
10 minutes, but you didn't say anything. And there are ones that actually understand that they need to. They're there for a reason. They're being paid as a pundit to give the audience
to do that, do their job. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think there are pros and cons to having the influx of ex-athletes. They can give an experience that no journalist can ever give.
No.
But equally, I often find the journalists are the ones that articulate the points better.
I think that's maybe because the ex-players haven't gone through that.
No.
Like stages of obviously like we are now going university, we're getting the steps to be a journalist, whereas those players are solely coming in to tell their stories rather than being a journalist sort of thing.
But my thing is that then if you're not ready and prepared to articulate a story or broadcast, go and train.
Yeah.
Because it's not me, but the broadcaster's paying you $1,000, $5,000 to come on Sky or TalkSport or BBC, whatever, for a reason. Yeah. Give me something. Don't just waffle. Like, if you're not ready to talk on the mic, that's fine. Yeah. Go away for a year, train, learn how to broadcast, and then come back. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you had any personal experience meeting some ex-pros in the game? You built some friendships outside of the work, like you got colleagues that you'd see more as mates, or?
Good question. There's a few. Who would I consider a mate?
Because I think we spoke yesterday, didn't we, about relationships with colleagues and having to sort of you might have to report on a bad story about them, but you know they're your best mate. And
who would I regard as an ex-athlete, as a mate? There's quite a few ex-athletes who I respect and I get along with. Yeah. My bar for a friend is quite high, so would I call them a friend? Probably not. Who would I call a friend? I put on the spot there. That's a really good question. I've got lots of people that are like mates.
Yeah.
You know, Darren Bent is a mate. You know.
Yeah. Someone you'd like meet after work for.
I'll catch up with him. Joby McAnuff. You know, these guys I'll get on with really well. Work with. Wow, you've got put me on the spot there. Jason Cundy.
I do like Cundy. I do like his opinions.
He's a good guy, man, and he helped me. He was very helpful to me as well. In terms of friends, I'll have to give that some thought actually. I have to think about that one. I'll give that some thought, yeah. I'll come back to you on that one.
No, it's been really good getting your personal experiences. Thank you. Cheers.